second here. No, the mean old white man is funny. If you told everybody, they wouldn't believe it. Uh-huh. Oh, it's live now? Oh, okay. So, well, anyway, the mean old white man, he's just himself. But we're in a stage where it don't make no difference what he do. This is actually the end of 2020. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So today is what we call Thanksgiving, what they call Thanksgiving. And technically we got together, we wanted to just thank Allah for Imam Tufayl. You know, like we appreciate that Allah allowed a person like that to be with us for his period of time. And we want to thank Allah for that, you know. I mean, it's just, well, we'll get into some of it as we go along. But it's a long story, and it's a good story. And it's a successful story. Remember, other people have certain measurements for success. And for Muslims, we have a different measurement of success. You know, I was listening to one of these guys, in fact, this morning, I hadn't heard him say it before, but he said the Creator studied and something other, and then he found out which was right and which was wrong. And this was a motivational tape. This is the one, Arise. You might have never paid attention, but the guy on there mentions what he's technically saying is that you have to study what works and what don't work. So now, like the Creator studied, or basically that's what he's saying, that the Creator, Allah, the God, looked at what worked and what didn't work. Like we can look at what worked and don't work, and I just wrote down in my note, I said, this man is crazy. That's what I wrote right here. The Creator learned, and then I put insanity. So, like, alhamdulillah, it's like the Creator just kind of, well, I don't even want to say Allah, but the Creator just said, well, let's see how this will work. So he said, first he put 3 eyes on the human being, then maybe 1 toe. He said, oh, that don't work. And then, you know, after a while, he come up with a pretty good human being, like us. No, that's not the way it is. Allah is the Creator. Allah is the knower. Allah don't have to study nothing to find out if it works. And when Allah in the Quran says that he does things so that he will know, it don't mean so he will know. It means so you will know. Like Allah allows things to happen so we will learn. You know, we will acquire the knowledge of ourselves. And even in all the books talk about know yourself and know your enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. In other words, for the human being, we are dealing with a process of evolution in our own self. You know, kids, we evolve, we get bigger and older, you know, and hopefully we evolve psychologically and hopefully we evolve spiritually. We're living in a world that's not like that. We're living in a world that's chaotic. And so the world that we're living in, we have to find our way in the midst of this chaotic world. And we thank Allah for allowing us to be with people who have the ability to evolve, consciously evolve. So what we're dedicating today is what we call the Imam Tufayl Strategic Command Center, which includes the Masjid, 4481, top and bottom, 4607, the bookstore, and everything around here. This is what we're calling the Strategic Command Center. Now, this is for, like they say, have a short-range plan, a long-range plan. This is basically the short-range look. This is the 1 year period where we want to become operational, like clean out all the stuff downstairs, clean out everything everywhere, refix it. Like people come through, they see little stuff down here, a little there, and they always mention, what do they call it? Cosmetic. See, you need a little cosmetic. Cosmetic, come on in here. You can just cosmetic it up yourself if you want to. Maybe they want to get paid for it or something. And generally, we'll do all of that ourselves. We're on our own type of a schedule, and we'll go through that. So within 1 year, we want to have the Strategic Command Center operational. That means that we have a staff. That means that we have, like when we used to do our articles, As-Sabiqun articles, we have stacks of these articles. In fact, I suggest that everybody read those and study them, because those articles talked about the stages of growth that we were going through at that time. And basically, we're still going through those types of stages. So we thank Allah for a friend like Imam Tufayl and a brother, I mean, and a person that you can study with and exchange. Like after you get to studying together, pretty soon you'll be sitting there with tafsir and be going back and forth, and it really helps each of the people involved in that develop. Now, don't forget that we've had reading lists here, study guides, and we've went through just about all the literature you can imagine right here. We'll go through that process again as we move toward a higher state. Okay. And to have not only a friend, a brother, but a witness. See, a witness is somebody that can bear witness. You could say, remember this and remember that, and they remember. And we might have one witness left. So we want to get busy while it is someone that can bear witness to the different things and how they fit into this big puzzle that we call life. So we want to outline our future. Outline our future means that right now the Strategic Command Center will be the focal point in this area or in this region, probably in the whole country, for the type of progress that we're outlining. When we say outline our own future, that means that we're using this type of language that we've been talking about all the time, visioneering. Visioneering means like engineer, picturing where do you want to be? Visualizing what part do you want to play in this movement? And associating that with your actions. We're just happy and proud to say, with discipline and focus, we have always played a part, a critical part in whatever was going on at our time. Okay, so we're going to talk about different times and different spaces and what they mean. But we're writing our own future. It's like saying putting your own fingerprints on the pages of history. That's what we're doing now. And we have to, As-Sabiqun, those that go out first, those who lead the way or those who show the way. Some translators said those who lead the way, and some say those who show the way. Right now, we're in a period in our own mind, in our own heart, of those who show the way, what we should be doing at this period of time, and showing them that all of these possibilities, that the things that the Muslims say, the non-believers say, and the thing that the human beings say that it's impossible to do, well, those things that they say that are impossible, we have to do those things to make them possible, and usually do it right in front of their face where they can't deny it. We've already done, and we'll talk about that as we move along, we've already done as a community certain things. People that have been here have borne witness that all the things that we've been involved in as a community, and some of the things that have happened as a challenge to us. But we've never ran away from a challenge because we know the rules of struggle. That the bigger the challenge, the bigger the obstacle, the bigger and better you have to become to overcome that challenge and to overcome that obstacle. So we're thankful for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowing us to have a brother, a friend, and a witness amongst us for all of those years. Okay, now, when you dedicate something, it's like you're saying that we want to say from our own heart that this person and their gifts to the community and to Islam meant something, right? And to show you how we feel about it, right, Islamically, we're going to now take this to a higher and higher and higher level. Because some of the things that the Muslims have failed to do is to take their leaders, their people, as focal points, as guideposts. You'll hear foreigners, they always talk about Sayyid Qutb, they talk about Imam Khomeini, right? They talk about Imam Hassan al-Banna. We talk about Dr. Khalim Siddiqui, all of these great personalities. But there's nobody in the black community holding up. We used to talk about Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. The people might mumble a little bit, but they're not jumping out in the street talking about Imam Warithuddin Muhammad had the message and he did this and he did that. You notice they're quieting down. And you go to their places, pretty soon they're filled up with people that don't even know who Imam Warithuddin Muhammad is. They don't know his contribution. They don't know that he changed. You got to think about it, because sometimes we think about people where they are politically, and we used to do it ourselves. But when you think about a personality that took people that was getting ready to get on a spaceship, you know what I mean, and the mothership, and who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. You talking about insanity? What was that student lesson number 1? First thing you got to learn, who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. Boy, that's a big title. And he took us from that, right? He took us from that to La ilaha illallah. And we used to have people come sometime. The Ikhwanis would come. Once we had a big meeting here, they was coming, and they They wanted us to join Mass and all these people. So they had their big sheikh. He was sitting right over there. Then they had them. So one of the brothers was looking at brothers downstairs. He says, I was watching them make wudu. They didn't make wudu right. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know who those people are. And they may not have nothing to do with us. What are you doing anyway, coming around spying on people? Yeah, to see did they miss one hand? Did they miss the other? Did they do this? This is the mentality they have. We have to raise our people up to a higher level, right? We have to take them to the level of completion. Okay. And remember, they don't have to be perfect. See, the older you get, the less you move away from perfection. And not the less you want goodness, but you don't expect perfection out of human beings who are imperfect, right? You just don't expect it. And if you find it, the higher the level of perfection you find, the happier it makes you, right? But you don't want to force anybody. You're not perfect. We always say, they got George Washington down there. They done named the whole city after it. They got Thomas Jefferson down there, both of them slave owners and all of that, right? Had people whooped all the time. And what was perfect about them? Absolutely nothing. And they rant and rave about freedom. Remember the parts we went over that they had about slavery, and they nexted it. They put it out, set it aside, because this will prevent us from having unity of the colonies with the other white people who own big businesses up there, and or the slave owners. So all the stuff they talked about, they never even intended, right? All men are created equal. Bull crap. You just said before that they wasn't, that one group is slave and an evil king is one that's taking these poor people and bringing them over here, and we have to work them to death. That's basically what it is. The king's fault that we working all the Negroes to death. I'm telling you, okay, they're not, in other words, people do not have to be perfect to raise them above ourselves, right? They don't have to be perfect. Okay. So, one of the things about, say, our library over there, we're going to have a section in there, and Brother Tufayl, we're going to have a Brother Tufayl section for books. You have to sit in there and read them, because if you take them out, they won't come back. I mean, of course, that's what some people say, But it's his library. Whatever they leave over there, I told him I'm going to have a section over there. And it'll just have, his name and the section for the tafsir of Quran that he had and all those things that he had, the different various tafsir. In fact, all the things he had read, and things that he studied. And they have the chair. They have all that stuff for white folks in libraries. The presidents, they get a center, you know what I mean? And they keep all their records there. Well, what about us? We're not going to, them guys are higher than we are, and we believe in Allah, and they kill babies all over the world, right? And they lie, they just purposely lie. Well, there's weapons of mass destruction, and where they at then? Right? And when the old guy die, he gonna get a library or something to keep his notes in, keep his lie. He got a book of lies. That's what they ought to call them, a book of lies. Anyway, as we move on, so that's what we'll have in our bookstore. We'll fix it up and tidy it up, and we're going to get on that right away. So that's a section to be studied. Consolidate the masjid. We get to clean out, we can box up the things we want to keep, which is only a few, and we're just cleaning this place out from top to bottom. And all the mold and everything that's around, we'll bleach it down, paint over it. We're going to fix the place. Cosmetic, they say you need a few cosmetics. We're going to take care of all that. No. See, so personally, you remember when we started working on the house, I used to work on work all day almost. Then I go, okay, I ain't gonna blame the boss man for everything, but then I started getting tired and aches and all that. And in the first week, I wasn't getting none of that. So we're gonna start back to doing it, the 14-hour, 16-hour day, that we're gonna work every day doing what we've been talking about. It don't make no difference whether it hurt or not. That has no difference. And see, you have to study yourself, and you got to realize what condition are you really in. Is it age, or is it something else? We had a saying years ago, whether physical, chemical, or psychological, we're going to do our job. And boss man, people that know, he used chemicals on people. It's all in it. Doesn't mean anything that alters or changes, your makeup. So he uses chemicals on people. And included in chemicals, he will use drugs on people. And if they fall in the wrong category, he'll slip acid in, everything on them. They be orange sunshine, clear light, and you won't know what they're talking about. And they won't either. But what we say to boss man, you just bring that on. That's all. You just bring all that on. Physical, psychological, or chemical. It don't make no difference. That means there comes a time when you go through a period of observation, like that's what we've been going through for the last several years. Because we wrote in our books years ago that we've been through this before. That this is like deja vu. We've been here before. So I want to mention a few times, and it'll give us a little idea, if we had 1967 and 1968, that was a serious period, but it was a period of rest, recuperation, and observation. We got to a certain point, and we knew we had to slow down, because the game that we was in, we were getting up higher than the game that we had would allow us to go. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say is, like, when we talk about stages of growth in the Islamic movement, part 2 and part 1, that means that there are certain stages that everything goes through. The first time this happened, it was just natural to say a lot of things happening. I had to pull back and observe this stuff for a minute. And that's what happened. We observed what we was doing. Because at first we just doing it. And we getting plenty of what we just doing. They said, hold it. Let's take a look at what we're doing. That was an observation period that we would observe. We would check out exactly what we was doing, what everybody else was doing too around us, and how it affected us. If you go through, then when we kicked in 68, 69, 70, 71, boss man was so overbearing, and he had run some schemes that technically had us off balance. So we pulled back, and we got to observe this. And to get time to observe, we're going to leave the country, because you could see what's going on. If everybody you knew, if in the movement is almost dead or destroyed. For instance, I'm from Oakland, so by the time in 1970, Huey Newton got out of prison, head of the Black Panther Party. In 1970, he got out. He was on the back of a truck with his big muscles, because in those days when you went to prison, you lift a lot of weights to get big, And so, would you give that just a minute before you, I don't want to freeze the sisters out, but it's a long story about Boss Man. But he, right in the middle of this so mean old, so blame Boss Man for anything, any discomfort. But Huey Newton got out of prison in 1970. And he moved down he was up on the 26th floor of the Lakeshore Towers. Now, my best friend lived on the 23rd floor. Lakeshore Towers is right around Lake Merritt. Oakland is a beautiful city. It has a tidal lake right in the middle of it. And the tide comes in and out from under so it's a tidal lake right in the middle of the city. And we used to run around it and all that type of thing. So you could imagine they have some beautiful structures around there. They had just built the Lakeshore Towers. When Huey Newton got out of the prison, instead of coming out full of revolution, he allowed, instead of him educating the people, he allowed the Negroes in prison to educate him. So when he came out of prison, he went in a semi-intellectual and came out an idiot. You know how people sound in them prisons. Man, I was driving this, I had a big car, had a big house, man, I had all this, that, and them niggas. They're lying, of course. And so he heard that stuff for a couple of years, and it set in. When he came out of prison in 1970, he was exactly like them. So instead of living, in those days, rent for a nice apartment was $110. And he moved up in a place that the rent was $650. And all of a sudden, instead of helping people in the black community, he started forcing the people that owned businesses and everything. He used the Black Panther Party that was left to take money from the black community. And all of his visitors after that was Jane Fonda and all of them coming up there. And so it changed. He changed. And you'd find him in nightclubs with his bodyguards beating up people. Huey Newton even killed a young girl, 17 years old. Do you ever remember reading about that? They say she was a prostitute, but he killed the young lady, 17 years old. That means he went crazy. So now I'm still in Oakland, I'm looking at all of this. Hey, I said, man, there's stuff going on that I got to get my head on straight. I left the country, maybe 1971. But all that period, we had a chance to live through a Black Economic Enterprise Zone right there in Oakland. All you hear about in the news is the Black Panther Party. Go to Oakland and see what they talk about. See if they're talking about the Black Panther Party. Oh man, no day, that was the Big Hank, the Ward brothers, they were doing this. That's what they would tell you. Right now in Oakland, if you think I'm lying, find some older people that remember that period and see who they talk about and what they talk about. But in other words, now remember what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a period of observation. That period of observation is when you're going around the world and you're seeing the world as it is, right? Not just what they're showing you. They're showing you a rotten, deadly world where the white man is controlling everything. He'll kill you on the spot, and ain't nothing nobody gonna do about it. And that's the way it was then, and actually still the same now. So you have to go and see a whole different thing. That's a period of observation. Then, if you come, we'll reenactment here. January 1st, 1972, we made a comeback. We came back from where we was in Europe and Africa and all those places, traveling to see what does this world look like. And that was a good period. It was really a period of learning and observation. And is the world like what you've seen? Now, there's a whole new world out there. There's a whole vast world with all kinds of people, languages, and colors, right? And you get a chance to peek at some of it. So if we go through that period, then it's 70, 72, 73, 74, and then there's a period, people would call it an unfortunate period, but it was another period of observation in prison. But you back with the so-called nation, but right at that time, Elijah Muhammad dies. When Elijah Muhammad dies, his son takes over. And when his son takes over, we go through that process. You're talking about happy? He took us through that same process of transformation. You know, I know it. I was sitting right there. You know, some people say it was a little slow. At one time, we said it was slow. Man, the chief moving slow. The chief this and that. But when you look back on it, you say, man, to bring those people where they was to where they are now was almost magic. Right? No. You think the guy got a wand or some, you know, stuff under the table, you know what I mean? Shake it up and sprinkle. It was miraculous when you think about it, right? Here we are. The black man is God and the white man is the devil. That part of it made sense, you know. But the first part didn't. And then you're saying, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, and you mean it. Now that don't mean that all the old pioneers scrubbed all of that out of them, because I visited some of the Imams and they might have a picture of certain people, you know, in the place, and then the way they refer to people. But hey, man, you can say what you want. The stuff that black people had to go through to get to Islam, we're happy to be here, just happy as we can be, because there's too many ways to trip and fall. The more is science, you know what I mean, and Holy Koran 7 and praying like, so what does they do? It says praying. I said, oh, okay. What's that book you got? It's the Holy Koran. Holy Koran is a little book like this with 7 on it, you know. I said, hey, man, it's a dice game or something. Anyway, hey, man, La ilaha illallah, to some people that's great, that's a big deal. But to some people, that's a big deal. And to be able to share that with other people it's a wonderful experience. To be able to share that experience with other people, to be able to study with other people. That's what Brother Tufayl, we'd sit right there in that house and we'd study. And we discuss all of these things that we're talking about. We would discuss all of those things. All we're doing is when we say now we want to do certain things, we want to use everything that we've come across in history, right, to enhance. That's what the Strategic Command Center is. It's Brother Tufayl, Imam Tufayl, Strategic Command Center. We're getting that together, right, to do certain things. And all the things of the correct type of literature for the stage we're on now. It won't be the same thing, but it'll be on a higher level. Although this stuff is pretty good. If you ever read it, just check it out. Okay. So as we said, a 16-hour workday. It starts today. It don't start today. It's been easing up on us. But the period of observation, we use the term wandering in the wilderness. It wasn't wandering in the wilderness, it was observing and studying. You know, studying history, how it fits with people, how it works with people, and how people work under certain circumstances. Right? How people will react under certain conditions and certain circumstances. And when you observe it enough, pretty soon you can forecast the behavior of people. When you observe the system over eons of time, pretty soon you can become very accurate on anticipating what the system will do. Why? Because the time, the place, the circumstances, and their history, their background, their makeup, what's in them, right? Right now, we see the world pretending to be wanting to move into some higher level. Well, they're not set up to do that. They're not set up to do that. All the discussions we had about giving the FBI time, giving these people time, they're not acting on what they should know, right? They should know what's going on in their society, right? They do know. If they're not willing to take some risks, some chances, and step out or step up or step in, however they step, to get involved with people that want to change this stuff. Because this thing is not working and it can't last. You know, I mean, it's almost dealing with this desire for more money and wealth and power is so insatiable that it's a type of suicide. And it's not only the big rich now, but it happens to everybody. If they start having money, you know what I mean? They start changing, their thoughts start changing, their look start changing. They see people different. They don't see people as brothers and sisters, they see them as customers and workers. You're supposed to, the only job you got is to help me get more money. Other than that, you don't have no real value. That's the way they start looking at people like that. And they start really acting on that. And now, here we are right in the middle of all of that. And as far as race and color, and the first to get it when it's bad and the last to get it when it's good is where we've placed. So if you're poor, whether you're black or white, if you're poor, you just don't get nothing. And the poorer you are, it don't mean they got white trash, right? They got trailer trash. White folks they're talking about, right? And one of the worst things you could, the white folks in the South, they used to refer to themselves as white trash. That's what the boss man said about this, is white trash. You know, you're worth nothing, you're trash, you're disposable. you ain't no better than a nigga. The only thing that make you anything that can talk to me is that you're white. Other than that, you're trash, right? That's the way they felt about him. Okay. Huh? Hey. You know, if we want a good world, we gotta make the world good. That's the only way. We can't leave it to those people to do this for us. They're not gonna do it. And the ones that they hire to do it, the presidents, the senators, and all that, they don't have the courage. First of all, they don't have the knowledge because they keep them fighting within a box. You know what I mean? You can fight in this psychologically. That's why Malcolm used to beat them all the time. Because the other Negroes would argue within the box that they put him in. He wouldn't. He never lost. You ain't never seen him lose nothing. He could, because he wouldn't stay in. You're not putting me in no box. And then I got to argue like a Democrat or Republican. That's the reason old dumb Don, he beats them all because he don't stay in the box they put him in. He just jump out of that box and said, bump y'all. Okay, but remember, he's done a wonderful job. He's done a wonderful job. Okay, observation period. Not wonderful like wonderful, but I mean, once you see him, you see the worst that America produces. Not only you see it, so does everybody else. They see it and they understand it. You talking about just in human terms? Boy, all the white folks, everybody calling, oh man, we so happy you got, hey man, we ready to come over and have a party and y'all, we ready to get back the way it was. That's what Don's job was. We said it to destroy the Republican Party. Why he keep talking about the things for democracy is so that they'll lose faith. Everybody will lose faith in the so-called democracy, elections. Who would do that unless this is my job? To say, hey, they got so many, he got 6 million more people than he did, and they said, oh, he cheated. Okay. Only way you do that, that's Banana Republic stuff, right? America is considered a banana republic now. That's what it's considered. Are we going to allow them to raise our families? Yes. Can you explain that? What is Banana Republic? Banana Republic is like, of course, they started calling it during the time of United Fruit Company. United Fruit Company is we get our bananas, Chiquita bananas and all that. We get our big, beautiful bananas here. One thing I want to say about banana republics, you know where the best Colombian coffee comes to? America. They drink the worst Colombian coffee and they keep it there for themselves. The best Brazilian coffee comes here. The best African coffee comes here. The best bananas comes here. Because I used to eat in the fruit market all the time down there. The point is, a banana republic, Milton Eisenhower, who's President Eisenhower, he was in a company called United Fruit Company. And Foster Dulles' brother, he had a brother, Allen Dulles. Allen Dulles was his brother. They was hooked up in, this is when they are starting to call them banana republics, really then. They had other names for them then, but the relations were so bad that in a so-called banana republic, the United States can hire a group to cause trouble or the second CIA operation, I think was in Guatemala, 1954. The Arbenz government Arbenz was kind of a socialist. He wanted to equal the wealth and help everybody a little bit. Go back 1 year, the CIA's first job was Iran, 1953 when they bought the Shah back. The next year was 1954, the Arbenz government. They used psychological warfare. They used various tricks to get rid of the Arbenz government. Because United Fruit Company, those companies in South America would be like some of the mining companies here. When mining was big, you know, remember the old song, 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Say, Peter, don't call me because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Company store, what's that? The people lived on that reservation, they worked on it, and they had what they had for white folks here, a company store. You never got anywhere. Like sharecropping. Some kind of way, no matter what you do, the money that you owed boss man for the mule, for the barn, and for the seed, always just barely makes it, or a little lower, or $5 higher than what you owe boss man for the rent. So it's more effective than slavery. Why? Because slavery, you gotta pay for all the stuff. The slave, you let the guy farm all that, he's gonna farm it the best he can. He's gonna work harder for himself than he would for the master. He ain't gonna take no breaks and go hide in the woods if he can, right? He's not gonna do that. Why? Because this is mine, he's thinking. So, banana republics are, I'll put it this way. Does anybody ever remember the good neighbor policy? Mm-hmm. Franklin Roosevelt, right? The relationship with North America and South America was so bad. I mean, one of the generals said, I could have taught Al Capone a few things about his job. He said, I kept South America free for the big banks, for the big companies, and General Sedley or Smedley, one of them guys. Huh? That's Smedley, that's him. He said, I could have taught Al Capone stuff. He was big down there in the 1930s. The point is, the relationships was so bad with South America that when Franklin Roosevelt came in, he had some human policies. And he called our new policy is the good neighbor policy. We want to live in this hemisphere as a good neighbor. It didn't last long, but he said, we want to be a good neighbor. Imagine the policy is so bad for your neighbors down there that you have to have a specific policy called a good neighbor policy. That we want to be with you as a good neighbor. Now that don't mean that they didn't still shoot, whether it was Cuba, whoever it didn't make no difference. The banana republics, to answer the question, is republics that if you put a guy in that did what Americans told him, he would be fine. Like Batista, that was head of Cuba, he was a sergeant in the army. That's all he was. He was a sergeant in the army. Well, a sergeant. Idi Amin was a sergeant too, in the King's Rifles. But he became the ruler of Cuba. And right now, the people down in Florida are still worshiping Batista, wishing he was back, or they could get back down to Florida, and Fidel them and all of them could go. Those were banana republics. Long as they, the black community is banana republics, banana and Negro republics, yeah. Long as the people inside the community, the leaders, sell their soul to white folks, they all right. Anybody get out of line and get to talking about helping the people and all that, you gotta go. You can say you're gonna help the people as long as you don't do it. Everybody, the mayor down there, all of them say it, but they do policies. They done up the taxes on one of our properties to get rid of us so that the white folks can come in the Southeast. When we come out here, did nobody want to come here? But now they want it back. They said, we got to fix this for white folks. But the mayor's not going to say, we trying to get rid of all you niggas. Y'all almost gone now. And you wait. Remember years ago we said as soon as the white folks get back in D.C., they're going to make it possible for you to carry guns. It was 10 years ago they said you can own guns again. And the white folks, the Negro police always told the white folks, well, get a shotgun. That's what they told the white folks. Hey, get a shotgun. But anyway, now, observation period for us is over. This observation period, let's say if we want to consider, okay, 1980, 1985 was really a heavy learning period. From 85 to 89, when we came here in 89. Okay. The period for the last several years have been an observation period for us. We haven't been doing a lot physically. Why? Because boss man is on the attack. There's no sense of you, right, using up all your energy trying to defend yourself against this attack and that attack. That's what he's doing. So as you evolve, you learn how to conserve your energy. When I said Brother Imam Tufayl is a witness, when I was in Oakland out there some years ago, a few years ago, everything that would happen in Oakland, I would call him that night and discuss the whole thing. You know, we discussed the evolution too. Hey man, this is really a serious spirit. What they doing is physical. They think they're gonna run you crazy and make you mad. But to me, it was a very spiritual period, and we talked every night. To prove it was a spiritual period, when I was attacked in the masjid a couple of years ago, there was no physical response. That means everything that you were studying, you accomplished that. Now, the period of observation is over. And I have a few of these, like stages of growth in the Islamic movement. That's one. Evolution of the Islamic movement. These are just some titles I picked up. Stages of Growth in the Islamic Movement, Part 1. And one of our lovely ones, Revelation and Revolution. That was nice. Revelation and Revolution. That's a little old, that's 95. A call to organized struggle. We're in all of these periods right now, except it's on a higher level. See, we passed through all of these stages. We lived through all of these stages. As a community, I have to say that we're the only community that has even come close to surviving. If we were to say that we're the only African American independent movement in the United States, that would be true. It would be absolutely true. Okay. So, what happens in movement is that as you grow and you evolve, right, the system uses more tactics and techniques against you. When they use those tactics and techniques, if you survive, you evolve. So whatever they apply, it's natural evolution. It's like science says, any living organism, in order to survive, it must either adapt or adjust to its environment or change its environment. That means any living organism, if it's going to survive, it has to adjust to that environment. It has to adapt to that environment, or it has to change that environment. Right? Okay. This is just elementary school biology, that's all. But it's true. Okay. And it gets deep when you get in to apply those principles to movement. What that means is we have evolved because the system has used so much against it. We delayed and delayed and delayed, all the time observing what he does and what he's doing. He has evolved by us lasting so long. He's evolved beyond anything. He can't do anything else. Well, a little murder, if a brother pop up, disappeared, it's normal. They can't do that. But that's what that's what all these articles, everything is for that. It's not a protection, but it says, we done told our story over and over and over and over and over again, and everybody done heard it. So if anything happens, one, people know Boss Man did it. Two, they start taking your words for serious. Or he wouldn't have disappeared. He wouldn't have died. He wouldn't have started his car and it blew up, right? So it's a psychological protection. In other words, remember, the system is going to do what it does. You can't stop the system. You can't stop the white man from being white. It just ain't going to work, right? And remember, he has been successful, what he calls success, at stopping everybody that wanted to improve or get bigger and better. He blocked everybody. Okay, now, here we come. Some kind of way, time, place, circumstance, longevity. Longevity. That means we have outlived and outlasted everybody. With the same idea and concept. That means the system has exhausted their ability to implement anything. They've exhausted. When they use a perfect idea, if you want to turn the heat up just a little bit, it's okay. So if you want to use the period between the 90s and up into the 2000s, during that period, it's unbelievable. Man, we had big Wahda conferences, Unity, Wahda. At UC Berkeley, we had tons of programs here, right? Demonstrations. we were actually famous in this region. The brothers in black, right? People would hand their babies when we'd be up on the stage. They'd hand us the babies, and they'd take pictures of their babies. Remember that? Sure. At all the demonstrations. Okay. Well, what happened to that? What happened to all the big programs at UC Berkeley? What happened to all the masajid in California, in Denver, in Philadelphia, everywhere? What happened to all of those centers? Okay. What they were doing in those days was they figured that we'll use Imam Musa as a figurehead. We'll allow him to move out front, the leader of As-Sabiqun movement, or the Amir, but under will be all our people. So Abdul Malik, all those brothers everywhere was on their team. So when we shocked them in the middle 2000s, and we did it gradually, we started talking about snitches, tattletales, and we started talking about Oakland as a clearinghouse. Clearinghouse meant that if you got the FBI, CIA, all those people at your masjid, if you don't have a clearinghouse or one person managing that, right, then they'll be bumping into each other. You have FBI agents beating up CIA agents, right, because they won't know that they're agents. So you have to have a clearinghouse means that they're going to run everything that they're doing through that one person. In Oakland, it was Abdul Malik. They ran everything to him. When did we know it? We knew it the day he walked in the door. Back in the 80s, we just knew it. I don't want to talk about it, go into all, but we just knew it because we already had the game. For what we was doing, we had that level of game. When they realized that it wouldn't work, they panicked. So Abdul Malik left. Then they brought Mukhtar in to say, hey, we made a mistake. We left too quick and we left him with all this, that, and other. So we got to go in now and get all of that back. Remember, what's everything about Oakland? It's about property. It's about selling. And then we just observed. We let them go and go and go, and now they trapped. It's not bragging. That's what superior knowledge, that's what hikmah does. Hikmah is a tool for you to use. And remember, it's something John Henry Clark said years ago. He said, I'm the teacher of this, talking about black stuff. I'm not here to learn this. I'm here to teach you this. That's what he told people. Okay, he was old and blind by then. Well, I'm not old and blind, but I've studied this stuff. Well, I am old, but I'm not blind. Well, not technically. So, brothers and sisters, where are we at right now? We're at a period where we have observed all of these things. We have manipulated the system beyond it has never been manipulated like we have. We've manipulated every talk we give. Everything we do is for a reason. It's for a reason. Okay. First, we was like everybody else. We were victims of American oppression. That's what we was. As we began to hang in there over a long period of time, then we became competitors. Competitors. And remember, we said this years ago, eventually we domesticated the system. Just like you domesticate a cow or you domesticate them to use. We domesticated the American system. So everything they did, it was for our purpose. Or they didn't know it for our purpose. Okay, so they go into your accounts and they steal all your money, right? They don't give it to Mukhtar, because Mukhtar, if a nigga got your money, he gonna run off. He sold one of the buildings in Oakland, it was for at least $1 million. The taxes was $4,500 or something, so it's way up there. He ain't got that, they ain't get that money to him. They just have him do it. You see, it's just ridiculous. You think if him and Khadijah had, let's say, $800,000, right? And they didn't send videos and all that saying that they had a crack habit and a dope habit. And I said, they ain't got a crack habit, they got the police habit. The police is telling them Negroes what to do. But tell the truth. If a nigga burn your account, right, and then he sell one of your properties for $800,000 or $1 million, do you think he's gonna sit right there in Oakland and call you every day, yeah, I just stole your property, yeah, I did this and that, right? He's not gonna do that. That's not correct human behavior for what they did. If he did that, it was to harass, right? Harass and stalking. You know, they technically stalk, but the stalking is welcome stalking. You got to remember, we're dealing with a system that nobody has ever defeated, right? The movement people, they haven't. So, are we real? Are they real? Is this human history that we're talking about all it? Is it real? If it's real, then they're real. The children are real. Our families are real, right? The environment is real. We always talked about 2020. 2020 was always on the calendar to set the stage for the future. It was never any, and you see, this is the seriousest year we've had is 2020. But, so we're starting back to work. Not starting back to work. 2020 is a stage of evolution to give us a picture, a clear picture of what our work is for the next period. That's what 2020 was about. They thought, well, 2020 vision, you got a vision for 2020. No, 2020 vision, we're going to watch 2020 and see what happened, because 2020, you could taste it. It's going to set the stage for the next several years. So we know where we're headed for the next several years. So the first year, we want all of this operational. Editors, writers, everything like that. Propagandists, all that stuff. The second year, we start in what we call strategic innovation. This is hikmah on this level. You got to remember, you know, they got championship rounds. You know, they used to be from the 12th round to the 15th round. Now they done just got rid of the 15th round. But if you had a fighter like George Foreman, that was such a heavy puncher and he was brutal. The way he beat the guy hit him and turned him around, Smoking Joe. I never seen nothing. I said, good God Almighty. I said, man, that was but I did ask a question, because I was living in Venezuela at the time, and I asked, it was a sister, she used to handle a lot of our business at that time. So she was from Oakland too, so was all George Foreman and all the trainers for. So she came back through Jamaica. They had to fight in Jamaica. So she said, I asked her, well, what was George doing? She said, George had a big iron wheelbarrow full of sand, and he was out on the beach, with a big old heavy coat on. He's pushing that wheelbarrow and stuff like that. I said, what was Joe doing? She said, I went to see Joe. He had a straw hat on and a ukulele. He was singing. He was. Joe, Smoking Joe, that was what his name. He was singing. I said, oh, what's the name? In trouble now. But George Foreman was so bad, he was just destroying people. Muhammad Ali, remember Muhammad Ali and Jack Johnson? We used their style. Why? Because George Foreman beat people so bad, he took them out in a few rounds. He never had to go any rounds, right? He'd take you out in the first round, third round, fifth round, unbelievable. He wasn't going no farther than that. So Muhammad Ali kept him around to the third round, fourth round, fifth round, and in the eighth round, he took him out. Why? Because he ain't never been that far. And you could see him he was just hitting Muhammad Ali. He was just like a washer lady. He just wasn't doing nothing, right? Simple. We've taken Boss Man up in championship rounds. He's never been here before. Psychological guerrilla warfare worked. All of the stuff we did worked. Everyone that was monitoring us is exposed, is self-exposure. Everybody is from observation, is in their place. And there's no, you can just say, well, that's so-and-so. And it ain't no big deal, right? It ain't no big deal, it ain't no problem. But through observation and sticking around a long time, you taking Boss Man, we taking him beyond where he's ever been before for a movement. And what's good about it? Boss Man championship days is over. They might as well go get Jim Jeffries. Right? Everybody knows championship. We getting Boss Man when he needed to be. Yeah. They say niggas can't think. That's too bad for them. They can say what they want. They say niggas can't plan. They got it wrong. What we're telling right now is we've been thinking about this all along, and we've been weighing and measuring. We know that the game that we had wouldn't take us all the way. Let me try to do it with this ayat in Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La tarkabuna tabakan and tabakin. You shall surely travel from stage to stage. See all this? Stage to stage. Okay, now Sayyid Qutb writes this. You shall certainly ride stage after stage. This is to say, you will pass from one stage of suffering to another, to what has been predestined for you. The Quran uses the term ride to denote the ongoing of various stages of suffering. Ride is frequently used in Arabic to signify the passage through risk and difficulty. This usage suggests that difficulties and risk are like horses or mules to be ridden. Each one will take the rider to the stage predestined for it and for them. Now, just listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying in this life, you on the ride, you catch a bus out here, you going to California, the bus here don't take you to California. But you can take it down to the station, to the bus station, right? Or somewhere close to it, take another, and then you get and then you can get a bus that'll take you stage to stage to California. The level of sophistication that you're on in life takes you up to a certain level. You have to be specially trained or aware to realize that the vehicle you're on right now, your level of knowledge, will not take you to where you really want to go. You see what I'm saying? Okay, in the black days, the Negroes didn't know that. We get rid of the white man, we're just gonna He just didn't realize. We have to watch that. So, where we are right now, we had to observe, we had to be patient, we had to study, and we had to realize that the knowledge that we had during these times was good, but we had to evolve. That's why we use similar words, but the vocabulary is different. So the stages of growth in the Islamic movement, that mean you're not all the way there. Brother Tufayl and I used to always talk about, is this the last phase, the one we're in now? Is this the last phase or the second to the last? I said, we have to teach, because we was both asking that question. So what we say now is we have to treat each stage like it's the final stage. Because we don't know whether it's going to get us all the way, but to influence the rate of change, to influence the direction of change in America, and then hopefully the world, and to influence it with Islam, we have to evolve. The last stage, the transition stage that we went through, was a stage, right, of transition that we had to evolve. We're here right now. Okay. If we will agree that we can anticipate what Boss Man going to do on a semi, right? I mean, it's semi-accurate, right? I mean, if we were to say that we can anticipate where Boss Man is going. We talk about it here all the time. In fact, we go over things that we might said last week. We said, look what Boss Man talked. So it has to have some truth to it. Not only that, but methodology and process. Before, we allowed people like Chairman Mao Zedong, the dear leader, Imam Khomeini, all of those people. We gave them, even Dr. Khalim Siddiqui, but we gave them the credit, right, that they could do it. Maybe they're just a little lighter than we were, something. But we gave them that ability, but we studied them in detail. But the job that has to be done now is beyond. If you look at what's going on in Iran and the Iranians, we know all of the brothers there. We know them very well. They're doing a wonderful job, but they're making certain mistakes, critical mistakes. But because they gave so many martyrs and what have you, that Allah is covering their mistakes. Because some of the mistakes that they're making, if anybody else made them, all right. So don't leave out Allah's protection on us too. All this blabbermouth stuff about we did this, we did that, we know is Allah. But Allah give us 1% of the ability to realize, as Sayyid Qutb would say, you shall certainly ride stage after stage. The ability to know that the ride that you're on, the tools that you're using, the specific game that you have acquired, the technology you've acquired will not get you all the way. Means that you have to have the ability to pull back. You see what I mean? And observe and study until you acquire what? The level of knowledge, the level of training that will take you all the way. Okay, so I don't want to bore y'all. I know that little turkey down there. Evolution. This thing about our picture of ourself, our picture of how we fit into this. Brother Tufayl, Imam Tufayl, and I talked about this stuff all the time. That's why we're calling it the Imam Tufayl Strategic Command Center. Sharing with him. So what we hoping is that if we pull this off right, for him it's Sadaqah Jariyah. He didn't already put in this stuff, right? We continuing on, so he getting the, so it makes us want to really do a good job, right? Yeah, it's just, it's Sadaqah Jariyah, it keeps on. You write a book, suppose you give a lecture, all of that stuff means that people would benefit on it. If you plant a tree and people benefit from the fruit of it. Okay. Those who show the way. I think that's the level we're on, instead of those who lead the way. Those who show the way. As-Sabiqun, those who show the way would be the people who exist in the environment, face all the challenges that the environment has to offer, and pass through those. But not pass through it in a traumatic way, in an evil way, are you mad and you're paranoid, but pass through it with ease. And it's visibly easy. So people see, I was scared of boss man, and that nigga ain't no better than me. Them niggas ain't no better than me. Right? So they sitting in their little hustle. Them niggas can do it. We can do it. Them As-Sabiqun niggas over there. Hey man, if they can do it, right? This is the way people think. We can do it. So if you say I'm gonna lead the way, what they gonna do? You ain't lead me nowhere. I ain't going. Wherever you wanna go, I ain't going. I'm going the other way. That's if you wanna lead the way. But if you wanna show the way, it's different. So we have to use some hikmah. The true translation of the word hikmah is not just wisdom. It's the ability to put things in proper order. Yeah, okay. So now I'm gonna speed up. So first stage, make this stuff operational. Second year, strategic innovation. Actually, we're doing strategic innovation now. Strategic innovation means that we are innovating and using all the things in our environment for good. Remember our process. The Quran, the Sunnah, traveling the earth and see what there was the end of those before. History, and then our own experience. You got to remember, we learned from one thing for sure. In 1996, our greatest leader at that time, Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui, he had heart trouble. He was in South America. He gave a lecture And it was clear that, right, that he was saying Imam Musa is the guy you guys should follow. Not only that, when we went to the airport in Johannesburg, Sister Bahia and I was coming back, he got in the car and he went even further and further. And he went in detail, Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui in 96. Okay, everybody there knew that. It was thousands of people from all over South Africa there. And they all heard it. And they knew what it meant too. But I'm not a crybaby. But if you black, you get back. Example, the richest family in South Africa. We was in Cape Town. Cape Town has about 750,000 Muslims. Cape Town is revolutionary. All the revolutionary stuff you hear coming out of South Africa comes from Cape Town, mostly. Because Cape Town has colors, Malays, and all of those people are mostly Muslims. It has millions of people, but there's 700,000, más o menos, more or less. And one of the groups there was Paget. Paget, I don't think you ever seen it in the newspaper. Paget means People Against Gangsters and Drugs. After the liberation, the white man started flooding South Africa with drugs. He had two things hit him hard: AIDS and drugs. And I told him, you cannot progress your society as long as drugs is eating it up, Now, Paget are friends of ours, but Paget are the middle class Muslims, right? And Paget was not as futuristic in their thinking. So Paget, when they would have, if it was a dope dealer in the neighborhood, Paget, in those days everybody could carry, still had guns from the rebellion. So they would march to the dope dealer's house and they'd tell him, you gotta stop selling drugs. And they would go back one time more, and then the third time it was all over. So one drug dealer, he was a Muslim, Rashid Staji. They hit him and they thought he was dead. They poured gasoline on him. I wish y'all could see that picture. They poured gasoline on him and lit him, and that boy stood up, and you ever see a monster walking and flaming like that, burning? That's the way Rashid Staji looked. So they also had a program, I'll finish in a minute, but this is important. They had a program of, I was riding with the brothers one day. It was a guy, young guy, had a bad blue Benz with a convertible top, blue on blue in blue. That means it was blue on top, blue inside, and blue on the bottom. Like black on black in black. White on white in white, or white on white in red, something like that. Anyway, that nigga talk. So this was a beautiful Benz. One of them small ones, not expensive. So the Paget brother was taking my license, his guy's license plate. So I said, why are you doing that? He said, well, he's too young to own that and da-da-da-da-da. I said, oh, okay. So when we got the house, the richer Muslims had come to me from all over South Africa. They said, Paget have threatened the principal of a school, and they had tried to blow him up twice. They were blowing people up. In fact, when I was there, they made a couple of mistakes and blew themselves up. But maybe they didn't blow, maybe boss man blew them up. But anyway, so I was talking to them, and they said, I said, hey man, could y'all kind of lighten up on Mr. Hussein? He said, but he was bringing drugs into, I said, oh, when was he bringing drugs in? He said, well, he give them to another guy. He was bringing them from India 15 years ago. I said, he's dealing drugs 15 years ago, and you want to kill him now? I said, what has he done? Well, he's over the principal of the school, but I said, if you go back 15 years, they'd have to go back a little more for me. I said, you could burn me. Hey, man, I was a drug dealer. You know, y'all got me over here speaking. You happy to see me? But if you go back, add another few years on that, y'all may be aiming at the brother. So I started talking to him about Sharia. You got to have evidence. You got to have witnesses. You can't just burn people. I said, the other thing is, you done scared all the people. I said, you started a good program, People Against Gangsters and Drugs. Christians and everybody was with them. I said, but if you're going to blow up everybody and kill all the people, I said, revolutionaries, if you're going to have a revolution, you have to have a place to hide. I said, now Paget sticks out. So I was telling them about revolution and all that. They anyway. In the meantime, I was talking to the richer Muslims. They're not kind of rich. They big rich. So I say, hey man, what y'all can do is, they're a little feisty, so you can mellow it off, and blend it, and actually help them. Because when I was there at that time in '98, I went to 3 courtrooms. It looked like it was in Oakland. I said this was like 30 years ago, 68 in Oakland. One court, the leader. Second court, somebody else. Another court, all the brothers was going to court, and they were isolated. So I said, I was trying to give them advice. So I said, look, you can't do nothing to the man because you don't have no proof. But they do. And if we don't do nothing, I said, you got to use Sharia. You're going to just go around and you got to have witnesses. And then I was showing them the hadith. I said, look here, this is rules of trials and all that. That's what it said. I said, you got to do that stuff. So then I said, we'll skip the part about the super rich guys. When I'm talking to him, he's telling me these coloreds and these guys here, they're emotional. They get everybody in trouble. They this, that, and another. And he's talking to a nigga, and he's not realizing that he's telling me the same thing everybody say about us. That's the way I'm looking at it. The way he's talking about them, which are other Muslims. They're good Muslims. They just need a little help. That's the thing that, anyway, with Paget, they invited me a couple of more times. So I was showing them about how you get along. At that time, they had the Negro pre-Columbian Negro over here. What's the Abdullah Hakim Quick. So they brought Abdullah Hakim Quick to Cape Town, the Islamic jurisdiction country, because a lot of them went to Saudi Arabia to school, and when I came to South Africa, I was making such inroads, they wanted another person that just sounded like us. Because that sound, that Negro sound, hey man, people like it. You think don't nobody care? Hey man, they like that Negro sound. So they did their research and they brought the judicial conference, brought Abdullah Hakim Quick there. The last time I had seen Abdullah Hakim Quick was at ISNA in '88, and I called him a snitch and a tattletale. And so they was gonna have us meet him, the judicial conference. So I was telling the brother with me, you would call him an Indian, but he would be some mixture. They can tell when you're not a full Indian. So anyway, he say, I said, watch this. When we went to visit him, when he walked in, I stood up, I said, oh, it's so good to see you. I gave him a big hug, and he gave me a big hug. And so I was looking, he was sitting there. I said, this is hypocrisy. That's how y'all got to act with all these people. You got to smile and give them a big hug. You can't scare them to death. You know what I mean? You're in a struggle, so you can't scare everybody to death, right? Because half the Muslims will be turning you in. And you talking about blowing up all the Muslims? Right? Okay, anyway, the point I was making was you have to know your environment a little bit. You have to know the people in your environment a little bit. And you have to be kind of aware of the transitional periods, stages of growth in the Islamic movement. That's what we call it. But this stages of growth means that there's stages in everything, right? It's kind of an evolution. So, you know, I could see where they got that stuff in Hinduism about, what did they call it when you transmigration of the soul? What do they call it when you go from stage to stage? Reincarnation. Well, they say if you come and you do all right, you get to go up a little. If you don't, you got to go back to being a dog or something like that, right? You know, so, but I could see how they come up with that type of thing. When you look at the human being do evolve, right? Or like the Quran say, the highest of the high or the lowest of the low. But anyway, so in closing, we're just going forward on this one, and we're not taking no as the answer. They can do whatever they want, and we're starting with what we have, and we've been this way before, many times. We talked about this type of language here, the great recovery. A setback ain't nothing but a setup for a comeback. We've been making comebacks for years. Some of it was in Jahiliyyah, some of it was Islamically. In all of our moves, we have chosen for ourselves. So that Brother Tufayl can get his Sadaqah Jariyah, we going into this with butt kicking in mind. Yeah, we're not gonna, boss man and already, he didn't have this, we're not observing anymore. This is not a period of observation. This is an operational action period. And we're starting the same way we started before. Like, this may not be nothing, this is $5,000. we're starting here to do all of this big talk with this. This is all we got. Ain't got another dime. We're starting right here. So y'all saw it. If we make it, we done started here, and all the stuff, you can't come and say them niggas ain't got no sense, they steal, they do this. I just showed you. We got $5,000 and we're gonna whoop boss man. Yes, we are. Or we're gonna have him strategically boxed in because it's our time. We already paid the cost of observation. And we got our own stuff we're going to bring with it. It's called fighting weight. You ain't heard that in a long time. Fighting weight is like it come down 20 pounds. The weight you feel, well, now fighting weight for me is still up there, but I'm getting down. Why? Because the discipline, the self-control, and all that stuff that go with it. We ain't never been out of shape, never. But we ain't in the shape it takes. The physical, the psychological shape, you know, when you do anything, they always say, get in physical shape, because it works on your psychic. You feel better. You test. When I took the chief of police test in 1970, that's what it said. You know where they're in those buildings, they have the chief police test. Well, I was studying the police, so I said I'd take the police test, right? And it says, before you take the test, get up early in the morning, get good physical fitness, right? And all of that stuff.
So is that when you doing
Public speaking, all of that. When you do anything, if you're in good shape, it goes better. Right? You feel better. So we getting in fighting weight. That's all. Fighting weight, maybe 20 pounds less. That's enough for now. And just to see, if you stay in shape all the time, it's like if they have Navy SEALs, all those people, they don't be in super shape all the time because it's not that good for you. So it's just like if you stay in pinpoint, perfect shape all the time. But if you get in good shape, you cruise a long time, then you kind of cut down a little bit, but you're still in good shape. Then when you get back in good shape, you feel it. So you got to modulate yourself. You know, you got to modulate yourself. And that's what we've been doing. This period of observation, been just cruising. So, we're asking Allah, not for ourselves, but to accept this action on behalf of the brother Tufayl, or Imam Tufayl, Strategic Command Center. That's what we're thinking about, and that's where we're headed. And we don't particularly care. We want everybody to go, but you can only control yourself. I'm saying that's what we're getting ready to do. Anybody want to go? There's plenty of room. In fact, there's plenty of room. I hope that made some sense. Anyway, are there any questions? Are there any comments? Yeah.
And I had, well, you answered it later, but it was, you had brought up early on during the talk about how, now that it's like a lot of these, say, Congress people and other, the elected officials, what they lack isn't necessarily knowledge. What they lack is courage. And I was like, so I had written down a question to, ask, which would have been, well, how do we teach people courage? If the problem ain't knowledge, the problem is courage. But then you later
No, well, courage is just like goals. Like, for instance, uh, you don't start people out with a goal way out there. You just start with something simple, you know. If it's 100 pounds of truth, just tell 1 pound of truth. Don't. Right? Just like lifting weights, and after they lift that up, it makes them sore and everything. And then you say, well, just try 5 pounds of truth. 5 pounds of truth, they get to working with that. Gets comfortable. Say, hey man, I bet you can do 20 pounds of truth. 20 pounds of truth, man, that means just give it a try. And pretty soon, they've gained strength and ability by small goals at a time. Not anything you're gonna have, you have to cut it up in small pieces. You can't eat a whole steak or one, just can't eat it. You gotta cut it up so it can be easily consumed and digested. I hope that halfway answered the question. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Those people are doing something to get a reward. We're not looking for any reward. Pleasure. So,
Yeah. No, contentment is a big deal. Now, where we are right now is we're still content. We're very content, but we're active. We're making our contentment active, other than an observational contentment. And imagine, like, you've been to all these meetings, imagine when we say something and then we get a response from the system, year in and year out, you know. And when you can forecast the system, it's a little different now. The difference now is that we're not trying to, this is not psychological guerrilla warfare. What we're doing now, we're not, this contentment is as deep as the original contentment, that you get when you make Allah's work your leisure and He closed the door to poverty, and all of that. Okay. On the thing about wealth, when I was in Oakland, if I made $5,000 a day, that was back in the 60s, I was sad. In fact, the brother, the second in command, came in. I said, man, how much we make today? He said, well, 5,000. This is in the 60s now. I was young. I was sad. Oh, man. I mean, I got over it, but we was used to making about 10,000 per day. That's how we could do all of this stuff and reinvest it in the community because of the money we was making. So right now, we talk about starting a whole big show with $5,000. $5,000 don't even pay the bills for $5,000 it don't pay nothing. It don't. But we're starting that. That's where we're starting at. Why? That's where we started before. We always started with we never used old money. New money, that's all. This is the only new money we got, semi-new. Nothing old. And every time, so the technique we're using is over 50 years old. But we're just using it for Islam. And the accumulation, can you imagine how much knowledge and information you accumulate in 50 years, imagine how much junk you could accumulate in your house if you just collected stuff for 50 years. You couldn't walk, you'd be like one of them people on TV, you know, the people they got pack rats. In jail, we always had a pack rat or two, you know, they just collected, and the police would come, you gotta get rid of that junk. And they would get rid of it, they'd come back in 2 weeks and they didn't recollected more junk. You know, so imagine how much good you can collect in 50 years. How much knowledge, information, and all that you can collect in 50 years. It's unbelievable. Anyway, if there's no more questions or comments, then we, as we said, we dedicate this program to Brother Tufayl Abdullah, or Imam Tufayl Abdullah. And we want to make all of this a success. Well, no, that's the wrong word, because they got success means different stuff for them. Success, we want to make it falah. So falah could mean remembering Allah, in fact, not to be drifting, kad aflaha al-mu'minun, the believers, the way they translate it, will be successful. But the way it's actually in Arabic, the believers are already successful. So remember the hadith, if you want to do your niyyah, if you want to do a good deed, you get the reward for wanting to do it. If you do it, alhamdulillah. Imagine we getting a reward, we want to do this. So we done already got our pay. Our just here, we done already got it. Because this is what we want to do. We're talking about it, we're encouraging, we done already got a reward. Everything else is just gravy. So are there any more questions or comments? If not, we thank y'all very much, and tomorrow, I guess, is Salatul Jummah. And aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum.